Hey, Aces, welcome back to the channel. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful weekend. Let's go ahead and get into this Love and Marriage Huntsville recap. Signed, sealed, divorced. I'm yours. So the episode begins with the ladies wrapping up their time in St. Thomas, having their final dinner, and they're going around the table and essentially apologizing to each other until they get to Sunny, who talks about betrayal. And so, as soon as she talks about how people may feel betrayed and how she's trying to move forward, here comes Destiny right on time. And Destiny says, "It's funny that you bring up betrayal because I feel betrayed that you slept with my man." Then, of course, Sunny goes, "Well, Moses was not your man at the time." And Destiny comes back and says that she had a stank face. And surprisingly, Melody has Destiny's back, right? So she's like, yeah, your face was a little stank. And then, of course, Shady Production, they run the tape back, and we do see Sunny's lips curl up, okay? So my thing is with Destiny, I'm not sure why she won't just move forward. Like, you know, it's supposedly she's dating Lance, Nell and Chris Fletcher's son, Lance Fletcher. So if she has a new man in her life, I don't understand why she's still caught up with Moses, who, he's free Moses, right? He's still locked up for not asking permission to film on Love and Marriage Huntsville. But I'm just, at this point, them fighting over this man, I know Moses' head is gassed all the way up because, in my mind, no shade to Moses, but I'm like, Moses, he's a decent man and all, but I mean, he has a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt, and from what I'm understanding, he can't really travel. He can't. His advancement options are a bit limited. I'll just say that. So the fact that, he is married to Sunny, she is holding him down. They're going through their IVF together. Like I said, I hope that's successful and that she's able to conceive. But Destiny not forgiving Sunny, it doesn't make sense to me. I know her feelings were hurt, but girl, they're married and you're supposed to be with Lance. So hopefully, you can forgive her and move forward. So Melody gives all the ladies a white rose, and they have a whole closing ceremony, which is nice on St. Thomas. So when the women get back, they're all talking with their husbands about the trip. So Tisha is opening up with Marcel, and she's just saying that Shanita was calling her the ops, and that she was essentially Melody's bodyguard, which is hilarious. But they were talking about how um, Wanda, right? Tisha couldn't put a muzzle on Wanda. You can't control what another person does, especially a grown person, right? We all grown out here. You can't control people and what they do. And I agree. So then we move on to Kimmi and Maurice. Well, before I even get into Maurice and Kimmi, let me back up a little bit because Tish and Ken, they're out to lunch and they are talking about Sunny and how she feels betrayed in their own situation, right? Because Tish left early with Stormy after they were asking about her situation with her husband and her boyfriend. So she's talking with Ken, and they're talking about how when you're married, things get messy when you're trying to move forward, and Sunny saying that she feels betrayed, it really doesn't make sense. But she's, you know, people are still married and they choose to move forward with a different partner all the time. Like they're normalizing adultery, basically. And so Tish, she chimes in. She's like, well, Melody did it. Melody moved on, I guess, from her situation with Martell. But here's the difference with Melody and Martell versus Tish and Marquez, right? Marquez was the one who abandoned his family. He left. Martell is the one who stepped out on Melody. So if Melody chooses to move forward, She went ahead and got the divorce like ASAP. So I guess I can understand why she's comparing her situation with Melody, but at the same time, she was quick to finalize that divorce with Martell. I don't even know if it took, you know, 6 months. She was trying to get it finalized quickly, and I really don't blame her, especially after we learn more about Martell and his character or lack thereof, right? So Mel has had a whole name changing ceremony and everything. She's completely moved on. But you know, Ken, he supports Tish. He wants to get married as soon as the ink dries on the divorce papers. And as you guys see in my picture, I'll get to the final scene with them talking about that in a little bit. So then we have Kimmi and Maurice. So Kimmi is sitting down with Maurice. They're outside on their patio and they're talking about the girls' trip. And Kimmi says, she doesn't necessarily do girls' trips. Kimmi, it's not really helping your pick me persona that a lot of people think that center men essentially. Um, I wish you would have said, I love when we travel, or, I prefer, family trips. But she said that, essentially it was messy because it was a bunch of women who weren't on the best of terms. But because Maurice was like, well, how did y'all have trouble in paradise? And I get it because, the Virgin Islands, it is paradise, which is how they got their name. But it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you are a bunch of people that you don't feel comfortable with, it's not going to be a fun time. So then she starts talking about Nell Fletcher and how Nell came at her wrong. And as much as, Kimmi has rubbed me the wrong way in the past few seasons, I agree with her. I feel like Nell, and I don't know, a lot of people say she was inebriated. She might have been. Kimmi was saying how she was yelling at her like she was one of her kids, which is true. Then you have to take into account that Nell is the oldest of the group. She does yell at kids all day long. She owns a whole daycare center. She yells at her own kids. You know what I'm saying? Like she's a yeller. Instead of her nickname should be Yelling Nell. But anyway, I don't feel like she did it maliciously. I feel like she was probably looking to have a deeper connection with the ladies, because I don't know why she was so in her feelings about her name not being on the place card. And that's another thing that Kimmi brought up. I think that there's just some unhealed, trauma, some wounds there. Nell says that she felt left out. I don't know if Melody, I don't think that Melody did it out of spite. I really do feel like she probably just forgot because she has so much on her plate trying to plan the trip. And then Nell, she did end up getting her own room, which was a nice room, as opposed to Kimmi and Tisha and Destiny all sleeping downstairs in the basement. So I don't know. Kimmi said, she really didn't have a good time, but hopefully they can either take their husbands with them on future trips or learn how to get along and move forward and leave, the past in the past, because life is short. And if you're in the Virgin Islands or wherever you are, you do not want to be bickering and hollering and fussing and fighting on vacation over little insignificant things. So here we have the final scene in my picture, and we have Tish, we have Ken, and we have Marquez. And Marquez, a part of me feels for him because I feel like he realizes now in retrospect how he pretty much lost everything. Like he lost the respect of, his wife and his children, and he lost his place in his family. And that's huge. I think because they did get married so young and because it was so much on him, he wasn't emotionally ready. He wasn't mature enough to handle a wife and children, and the fact that, Tish was grieving such significant losses, of her family members passing away. It was too much for him at that time. And instead of talking with her about it and maybe seeking, a pastor or a counselor, somebody, a mentor to help him through that rough time and sticking with his family, he ran. And listen, he said that they were together since high school, since they were teenagers. He keeps bringing that up. But Marquez was hurt child. He was crying at the table, and Tish was over it. She said she was too through. She was tired of the tears, tired of, I guess he would use that as a manipulation tactic in the past. But she was like, okay, well, here's the papers. And she asked the waiter for a pen. He brought it out, okay? And she signed it right there at the table. And you know what I mean? She did what she needed to do to move forward and to move on. But the fact that Marquez was talking with Ken, and he was like, well, you're the one there tucking my baby girl in at night, and you're the one buying my kids cars, and you're the one doing X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, Tish had enough drive or initiative to realize that she didn't want to be a single mother raising children alone. Children need a father in the home. And so um, part of me is happy that Ken stepped up. Do I wish that they would have, waited until the ink was dry on her divorce papers, and you know what I mean? Like, they would have done things a little bit more streamlined. Sure, of course, but life is messy. And sometimes you don't always get it that way. But if he's good for the kids and good for Tish and, being supportive of being a provider, that's what Ken said that he is. He's like, well, I'm a man. I stepped up. I'm a provider. Basically, I did what you failed to do. And so Marquez was there, left, crying in his whiskey, child. Um, and it goes back to that old adage where they say that, women care too early in a relationship. And unfortunately, some men care too late. I feel like Marquez and Martell, they realize after they've essentially thrown their families away how much or how important their wife and their children are to their core identity as men. And it's unfortunate that, hindsight really is 2020. That's what Kenya said when she was on the Tamron Hall show. It's like when you make such, huge mistakes, sometimes you look back on your life and you're like, wow, like I really messed up, but you're not going to realize that until it's too late. And unfortunately for Marquez, it's too late for him to be in the home. But what I would love to see him do is to be present, be a present, figure in his children's life. He's still, upset at the fact that he's like, well, you have somebody and I don't have anybody. Okay, well, go out and get somebody. You're an attractive man. I wish he would pull himself together and, start dating if that's what he chooses to do, if he's ready to, date. But be there for your kids, You don't have to wait until you have somebody on your arm. You can be a present father, even if Tish is going to marry Ken, right? Your children need you as their biological father, not just talking about it, but step up and be about it. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I thought this was a decent episode. I'm looking forward to next week, though, because next week is going to be messy. But you guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, Aces. Bye.